We interrupt this video to bring you an urgent announcement. This video was made entirely with Vegas Pro 22. If you've been looking for an editing software, the search ends here. With Vegas Pro, the options are endless. With the click of a button, you can easily add subtitles to your videos, mask out objects like our fellow DedSec member Marcus, and color grade your content so it always looks the best, no matter which platform. Follow the link in the description to get Vegas Pro today and see what all the hype is about.
Watch Dogs as a franchise is in a very interesting spot. The first game, when it released, was the fastest selling new IP ever in the gaming industry, with 4 million copies being sold the first week. By the end of 2014, that number grew to over 10 million copies. Watch Dogs 2 started off much slower, but thanks to word of mouth and good critic reviews, that game also sold over 10 million copies after a few years. Obviously not as good as the first game, and it needed a bunch of price cuts to hit that number, but still very impressive to still hit 10 million. Now, Watch Dogs Legion is really interesting. Apparently, it sold about 2 million copies digitally in its first 3 days. And even years later, in January of 2023, the game was in the top 20 games sold on PlayStation 5. But Ubisoft haven't released any concrete numbers. It's hard to really say how many copies this game has sold. It's probably close to 10 million now, but just like with Watch Dogs 2, it's gone on sale so many times that even if it's around 10 million, that number is kind of inflated. It's still adding new players to the franchise, but in terms of profit, it's really nothing compared to that first game. And I don't think Legion flopped, but in the eyes of Ubisoft, it wasn't really a success either, at least at that time. If we take a look at a recent Ubisoft game, reports are stating that Star Wars Outlaws sold just 1 million copies in its first month. And remember, Disney also took a cut of that because of the Star Wars IP. 1 million in a month. Avatar 2 is another example. Ubisoft haven't reported any numbers officially, but reports have stated that it's accumulated about 1.9 million players since launch. If we take a look at Steam, which to be fair, isn't really a fair comparison, but gives you just some extra insight, Watch Dogs Legion has about the same amount of players as Avatar, and this is current, like as of today. And not to mention, once again, Ubisoft have to pay Disney for using the Avatar IP. And Avatar specifically was in development from 2017 all the way to 2023. Whereas Legion was developed in half that time. I say this not to bash Star Wars or Avatar, quite frankly I haven't played either of those games, but it's to give perspective that honestly, Legion didn't do as bad as people think. Even just last month, Ubisoft shareholders wrote a letter to execs asking for them to focus on their IPs like Watch Dogs. So I don't think this franchise is dead. Is it Ubisoft's biggest priority? No. I would say that's still Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, but even both of their recent entries, Mirage and Far Cry 6, sold significantly less than the game that came before. But anyways, what does this mean for Watch Dogs? As some of you may know, they just wrapped filming on the movie this past summer. Details surrounding the project are still pretty scarce. We know the director, Matthew Turi, is attached. His previous movies on IMDb sit around a 5.5 out of 10, which is about where the Assassin's Creed movie also landed. Obviously, a movie is dependent on other factors like writers, acting, and to some extent, the budget, so I'm not judging the movie just yet. We honestly don't know the plot or really anything about it, just that it's set in the Watch Dogs universe. So I'm excited to just see a trailer and learn more about it. At the end of the day though, I don't think this movie is actually going to impact if a game is made or not. Borderlands recently bombed at the box office and fans, critics, no one liked it, but they're still making a sequel to the game. Hitman Agent 47 has a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes and around a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, but they still continued making games. Same exact story with the Assassin's Creed movie. They're just kind of separate audiences. Obviously, if a movie does well, it can help introduce new fans to the series, but I don't think it's going to determine the future of the franchise, at least to the extent that people think. Using Avatar as an example again, that movie made billions of dollars, and months later the game came out to pretty decent reviews, but it didn't sell well. Gamers just want to play games that interest them. They don't care if a movie like Assassin's Creed is mid, as long as the games interest them, they'll continue to buy them. Which leads me to Watch Dogs 4. I fully believe that they're going to make another game at some point. I just don't know where they're going to take this franchise. It's a little sad because the lead developers and creatives behind Watch Dogs 1 and 2 are mostly gone. They left Ubisoft. And then for Watch Dogs Legion, they gave Ubisoft Toronto the reins, and we saw how that turned out. Not to mention, some of those people also left the studio shortly after. If another game is made or is being made, they honestly should just go back to a similar format of 1 and 2, have a main character in a place that makes sense. I would love New York, especially because I live here, but Tokyo's a great option, which I know they've been exploring through the manga. There are just so many cool and interesting places and things that they can do with this property, especially with the rise of AI, deepfakes, and just how plugged in everyone is. Truthfully, I don't care if the tone is like the first or second game. Just give me an interesting story with a set protagonist, with some good gameplay and characters. Basically, what I'm trying to say is avoid most things that were done in Legion and you should be fine. Anyways, that's going to bring us to the end of this video. I think just to quickly summarize, the franchise isn't in the worst spot. Despite many thinking Legion flopped, when you look at recent Ubisoft games like Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, and Avatar, it seemed to outperform all of those with less development time and no other third parties taking a cut. The movie could help draw fans to the games, but ultimately, I don't think that's a sole factor if a game is getting made or not. I really think we're going to see another Watch Dogs game no matter what. The question just is when. But yeah, if you didn't know, I've been uploading some YouTube shorts, so check those out if you'd like. I'm also working on a dedicated Legion video, which honestly, I might live stream some of my playthrough of Legion. I think it would just be kind of fun and honestly help me get through that game. The chat would just be entertaining, and yeah, I need all the help I can get. As always though, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.